Season 1 of To Be Hero X has come to an end, and let me just say, I loved this anime. It was absolutely amazing, and it was such a surprise that I just saw the promotional video before the series came out. I remember episode 1 dropping, and I was just immediately hooked. I was just so surprised by how much I enjoyed this show, and overall, it was just an amazing, amazing experience week by week. Every single week, this was the show I was looking forward to watching the most. Now, let's firstly start out with, in my opinion, the biggest positive of this series, which was the animation and the art style. They did something that other types of media have done before, mixing in different animation styles, but I feel like this series did it so well, and they played it into the actual verse because X, who is the top hero, has like reality manipulation powers, and whenever he would snap his fingers whenever he comes into the episodes, the art style would change, and it led to some of the coolest sequences I've seen in animation ever. And I did like the 3D, and I feel like most series nowadays have really bad CGI, especially in the animation department. But no, the 3D was really good. And then it was just cool to see it go between 2D and 3D. And then even there would be different art styles for the 2D animation, like episode 23 with Ahu. You get to see a different form of 2D animation, and they do tons of different 2D animations, especially the last episode. We get to see so many different types, and it was just so cool, and just all of it being in one series and it actually playing into one of the heroes' powers just made it even cooler and just like reality breaking. Just added like a whole different type of experience for the viewer because you're seeing this guy's powers on screen. It's actually affecting your viewing experience because you're going 2D, 3D, 2D, 3D. It was just really cool. Now, we also have to talk about the soundtrack because when you get Hiroyuki Sawano on the soundtrack, you know it's going to cook, and he absolutely did. Like, all the soundtracks that came from this series were absolutely amazing, the opening, the ending, and then all the little OSTs in between was just absolutely gorgeous, and they played very well into the scenes, and it was just awesome. Now, my other favorite part was, of course, the actual heroes and the whole basis of how this season was brought up. So it followed all these different heroes who were trying to get into the top 10. And every single arc, we got to follow a different hero. And I thought this was a really cool idea because there wasn't technically one singular main character. We got to follow a bunch of different characters and what made them want to be a hero, what brought them, all the different decisions they made, what motivates them. And it was just really cool to see the differing perspectives of what brought them to where they want to be. Like, I think Isol and Linling have a very good dynamic in their stories, in that both people were nobodies and they want to be heroes their whole lives, but they didn't have the trust value to do that until obviously their story picks up. And we get to see how they go down different paths and it brings them to different results. And I just really like that. And I liked that heroes throughout the season would come back and we got to see it. Like towards the latter half of the season, we followed like six different heroes, and then episode 20, the Ruin Incident, was just one massive amalgamation of all of them coming together for a really, really cool experience and just one of the best episodes in the entire series. And I just really like that because now you understood the motivations between every single hero, what brought them there, and it was just executed perfectly. Now, another thing that was really cool about the hero system was the trust value. So trust value was essentially the power system within 2B Hero X. The more trust you have, the more powerful you become. And trust comes from the actual fans inside the verse. And what's cool is that the company is doing this, Bilibili, they actually have a website up that you can vote on your favorite heroes and they will get a determined ranking. And what's really cool, and I've never seen another studio really do this, the outcome of this ranking is going to determine who becomes the next X into season 2. And I think that's really cool because you're using the trust value from the series and using it real life for us, the fans, to decide who we want to be X. I think that's just such a cool little aspect that they're going with. And I just really like that. And it makes me even more excited for season 2. Back to the heroes, though. I really enjoyed all the heroes. There were a few standouts, and X is obviously number one ore farmer from the entire series, and he's my favorite just because he was so cool. But I really, really enjoyed learning about all the different heroes. For other ones, Linling and Isol were, I think, had the best writing in terms of their characters, and I really enjoyed their journeys. And then there's the whole behind the scenes aspect about the hero agencies, essentially turning heroes into Kaga machines and kind of just being puppets. And like a lot of, like, someone like Nice, a lot of what was done for him, what got him so popular, was just this big facade. Like, he never was really saving people. He was kind of just being manipulated in a way. Like, he was having false rivals just to boost up his popularity because it was like a whole money scheme almost. And I just really like this. And then fear gets introduced. That's a whole different thing. But overall, I just really like the dynamic the heroes played and how they weren't just, oh, I'm a hero. Like there's a lot going on behind the scenes. A lot of them were morally gray, and I just really enjoyed the differing dynamics between all of them. Now, some of the characters were weaker story wise. I do think that a lot of the female characters they didn't flesh out as much as someone like Ling Ling and Isol. Particularly Queen for me. I really liked her arc, and I think it was just because of the cool fight at the end with Boa. But I feel like she was painted as this like inspiring person, and to me, she was just kind of bland and one dimensional, and just never seemed like this truly inspiring person. I really liked Lucky Cyan's arc, but for me, Loli's was kind of a slow point, and what I really didn't like was that her actual story arc of her 2 episodes weren't the greatest, but her best character moments came after her story arc in another character's arc. And I was like, this should have been within her allotted time because the end of her arc is just so much better than what we see in those original 2 episodes. And I just really like the direction her character went, but it didn't really go anywhere during her actual 2 arcs. Now, one other negative I did have, it's not as bad now that I'm rewatching and I know like the groundwork for the series, but you go through a lot of different time frames, and the timeline is not concrete because you are just jumping around between different hero stories and them at different points in their life. And it could get very confusing at points to piece together exactly what is happening at what time, what point in the story are certain characters at when they're showing it to a certain time frame. At points it can get very confusing, and the whole years after commission thing doesn't really get explained till later. So at that point it's kind of confusing and you're like, oh, now I understand. But to me, that was just one of the biggest negatives, was that just the timeline was just kind of all over the place, and it took a while to really figure out everything. And lastly, I also just really enjoyed how everything wasn't given to you at once. Like, for example, X's whole story, we still never fully got that, but a lot of the stuff with like the commission, you kind of find out as the season goes along, and I like that because the first few episodes you weren't just be throwing all this information at once. It was more so focusing on the heroes, and as the heroes go, you kind of learn more about the commission, about other things that are going on within the world, things like fear. And I really like how they took this approach because it wasn't just too much information at once. It was able to take its time to build up. And by the end, you're like, okay, I get this. Now I'm ready for season 2 to see how this unfolds. Now that I know what the heroes are about, I can understand the whole overarching system that's going on. And I just really liked how X's episode was last because he was like the coolest guy, and you get to find out about him throughout the season, see what he's about, and I just think they executed that perfectly. So overall, I know this was a long video, but I just love this series, and if you have not given it a watch, I would highly recommend it. It is very easy to watch. Also mention, the dub is actually really good. I'm more of a Japanese subtitle watcher, but I really enjoyed the dub for this series, and you can watch it in anything, and I would just highly recommend it, and yeah.